everyone. Have we gone live?
I don't see live. Are we live?
Are we live? I think we're live, you guys. We are live. Hey, everyone. I'm Eric. This is my wife, Julie.
Hey, guys.
And this is the Blended Life. Tonight's topic is going to be...
God help us. Us.
Us?
God help us. It's going to be on marriage and a blended family.
Oh.
It'll be fun.
Way
Good
to drop the
times.
bomb.
I know. Good luck
All right.
to us.
And to everyone, I know you guys were waiting on an exciting and what's the word?
Interesting.
Suspense for this week's podcast topic, which was going to be blended life, transgender in a blended life.
Or being we interviewed a friend of mine who is a transgender step parent, so step parent of a transgendered child, and we sat down with her and we interviewed 2 hours worth of conversation
and I edited 2 hours worth of conversation.
I know, maybe someday, but one thing people don't understand when they come on a podcast like this, and something that she acknowledged as well, is that transparency, like real transparency, is hard to come by. A lot of people don't appreciate having all of their issues and their family secrets
And
out
I don't
there.
think it was so much her issue, but it was the issue that her and her husband hadn't talked about it, right?
Yeah, I think that she felt like she would be outing her stepchild.
Yeah.
And it just brought up a lot of issues. You know, it's really interesting. One thing that she had mentioned, and I have also seen in doing this Blended Life podcast and being on film and stuff, it's quite humbling, you know. It's one thing to feel and think and say something. It's quite a different when you actually sit down and you watch yourself say what you said.
Or you discuss things for the first time in front of everyone. Without ever discussing it with your spouse.
Yeah.
Which I think is a problem she was going to run into.
Yeah.
And I'm proud of her for it. I'm very proud of you because she put her marriage before her own personal feelings.
Yeah.
And I didn't know if that was going to be the outcome, which is why I just went ahead and just edited it, had it ready, and we were going to drop it tonight. But
yeah,
she put her marriage first, and I think that's very important, which kind of segues us off into tonight's topic.
That was a beautiful segue.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I didn't plan it, non-rehearsed.
Yeah.
I really didn't. None of this is rehearsed. This is actually...
Yeah, well, let's talk about... So an issue is transparency in marriages. You know, how do you feel about that? Do you think that, you know, when people go and... Women and men go to their male friends and guy friends, and they often vent, complain, and, you know, oh, my wife was so needy or so emotional. I'm so sick of my wife
They vent to their best friends, like you just said.
Or family.
And I've seen that so much, not in my friends current, but my friends in the past have had a lot of that. And that's something I've been always so hyper aware of, not venting to my friends about my spouse.
Right.
Because what that does is that puts them on the other side of the playing field. That gives them a negative, image of your spouse. And then it's always just negativity from there on out.
Well, yeah, because your friends don't know me like they know you. Right. Your friends are your friends.
So if I'm always complaining about you,
they're going to hate me.
I don't know if they're going to hate you.
They're going to think that your spouse is like a lot of issues.
Yeah, I don't love that.
I went out for drinks with my girlfriends. A friend had not moved back into town. A friend had come back into town from moving away. And so a group of us went to happy hour and we were talking and we were catching up and things like that. And it just hit me. I said, why don't we go around the table and talk about something we love about our spouse?
Are we able to talk about that on air?
Well, then it was confusing. Like, is this a body part we like about our
Right?
spouse?
That's what I'm talking about. Is this going to be another explicit episode thanks to your
but it was.
mouth?
I think that's a good thing. I think that when you're with your group of girlfriends,
Yeah.
women tend to overshare anyway. I think that, maybe try that. Definitely if you need to vent, we all have things that we need to get off our chest, and some wives can relate to other wives.
Yeah.
Husbands can relate to other husbands, especially when, you and I or husband and wife aren't relating to each other,
Right.
which often happens in a marriage, and especially in a blended life marriage. I feel like there's a lot of not relating going on.
Yeah.
So but I just want to tell people this, maybe if you're with your group of girlfriends or if guys are around the table, maybe you guys open up, talk about the good things that you love. Remind yourself why you love your spouse.
What bums me out about all this and just talking about this right now is it's such a trend in our culture
Oh, for sure.
to badmouth your spouse or boyfriend, girlfriend, wherever you are. It's a normal thing. And everyone just kind of laughs about it and takes it lightly. But at the end of the day, you're putting out those feelings and those thoughts. And whether you truly mean it or not, at the end of the day, you start believing some of it.
Oh,
And
for sure.
If your friends or coworkers, whatever, are listening to that all the time, that's all they're ever going to know.
And your friends do influence you. The company you keep. This is why you tell your children.
This is why I just said my past friends, a lot of.
Yeah.
I can't put up with that anymore. And it's not like, hey, and I probably should just stop. I don't want to hear it.
If a buddy came to you with a real issue.
Well, that's one thing.
That is one thing. Like,
Right.
if you have a buddy who's like, I'm really struggling with.
That's a totally different way of how it happens.
Than
though.
just like, oh, my wife, she's such a.
My lunch didn't get made or my clothes didn't
My
get.
lunch didn't.
I'm talking about like work related type
Go back
things.
to the 50s much.
Right. Well, or whatever it is, complaining because they can't go out golfing or drinking or whatever it is they want to go do.
Golfing takes 7 hours.
Well, depending how fast you play, how good you are, it can take up to 14 hours.
Dude, if you stop at the bar in between, it takes all day. Anywho,
I think there's a reason for that.
Yeah.
Golf was invented
to get husbands out of the house.
Right.
I think wives who've been married for a long time are like, you need to go play golf all weekend away.
I saw a funny meme on the internet last night, actually.
Oh.
That was kind of funny. And
Yeah.
it was this woman dressed up, in all lingerie, and it's on one of those funny sites that I watch, and she's all dressed up in lingerie and telling her husband, tie me up and do whatever you want. So,
do we need an explicit button?
Nope. That's the first caption. So it's her, tie me up, do whatever you want. And then down below it, it's then him and his buddies walking off on the golf course. Not funny to you? It's kind of funny, right?
That's guy humor.
I'm not a major golfer, but come on, tie me up and do whatever you want. So
yes,
he ties
he
her up.
Goes and plays golf.
Yes. How many blondes does it take to understand a joke?
I get it. We just have different sense of humors, which is
Which
really fun in our marriage.
Which is why I didn't forward it to you.
Yeah, so I'm really proud of our friend for choosing her marriage, like you said before this, and it speaks a lot. I think that even made her maybe realize how much she values her marriage, because she's in a tough spot. She's really struggling a lot, and I think that
which bums me out because there's so much good content in there, and I feel like this was almost like a therapy session with her. She got to talk about a lot of things. And like you said, maybe it just made her realize, wow, like there was part of the conversation that you stopped her and said, look you're not calling yourself a stepmother, but you're embracing the role. You're embracing the role as a mother, as a stepmother.
She absolutely is.
And I don't think she ever realized that. I think she just thought, I'm in this position. I'm a stepmother, but
it was forced on me, and she's really embracing it.
Yeah, but she's totally embracing it. She's totally going after it.
She's doing a lot,
and she's doing a good job. She cares. She shows up to those appointments about changing gender, and, she's present whether she likes to be or not.
Yeah. No, and, she very much cares. I think that is something that when you truly don't care, be worried. You
Right.
know, when you're just like, I don't have a dog in this fight. Do what you want. I don't see you again. Whatever. But when you have an opinion and you truly care, feelings are attached to that. So that just it was very telling, and I
It
hope
was.
we can air it. Maybe someday it'll be appropriate to air. We'll hold on to it. But for now, we're here live, gonna discuss marriage in a blended
Marriage.
family. Back
Yeah.
to the transparency thing, though. I feel like being a flashlight, people, and all that jazz, right? Lighting the way for others so they don't stumble and fall, like we did.
Multiple times.
Funny. But really, it's a fine line between being transparent.
Right.
I struggle with this a lot. I'm a woman, I overshare, and I am an open book. I really don't feel like I have a lot. It's gotten me in trouble sometimes, but you know, what is that fine line of like being transparent so you can help others, but still protecting your marriage and your blended family and your children and even their biological other parent and that family? I mean, what is that fine line? And do you think that it's better for a marriage to be more transparent or kind of just privacy? We don't discuss what goes on with
I
other
I
people.
think it really should be a case by case thing.
Mm,
You don't be so transparent about your marriage that everyone knows everything, and especially this day with social media. I mean, 9 out of 10 of your friends, you can probably go on and figure out what their meal plan looks like,
well,
or
and
their non-meal plan looks
well,
like.
and how stupid is it that you just lay out, I mean, your marriage on social media?
But that's my point, like,
Like,
okay,
come
so you
on.
understand what everyone's eating, but when it
Right.
comes down to your marriage,
Yeah.
your relationship, even everything that you've got going with your kids, keep some of it private. At least that's
Yeah, I think that people should use social media as a constructive platform. So, this is a lesson I've learned. That's always a helpful thing to read
yeah,
about.
and
But
it's so hard this day and age.
I think it's all about how you word it. I think that people don't realize that you can say the same exact thing worded differently, and it goes from offensive to constructive,
Right.
just like that.
Yep. Just by the way that you word
Just
it.
by the way you word it.
Yeah.
And so you learn of that a lot in therapy. You just have to like when you're communicating.
Right.
Therapists are always like, make it about when you're talking to your spouse about something that they've done to upset you. You need to turn it about you. So this made me feel.
Yeah, we're going back to kindergarten now, but that's really
You have to be in touch. You need to word it so that
and
people.
stop pointing fingers like you did this, you did that, and turning it into a big fight. I know this isn't. This is. I'm not the
Role
pointer.
reversal.
I'm not the pointer in this relationship. So that can be our. That can be our.
Oh, we just found our picture.
Our thumbnail. Yeah.
Yeah, but I think that, how many marriages have fallen apart on Facebook.
Yes. Or because of Facebook, and we touched on this once.
Did we?
I think
don't
on our first
remember.
podcast. I think on the X
The X
Factor.
Factor, yeah.
And it's such a powerful thing. So use it for good.
Yeah, be constructive.
Yeah. And think about it. Think about what you're putting out there.
Yeah.
If my spouse sees this, how are they going to feel about this? If my spouse sees me liking this or commenting on this or whatever it may be, like all of this affects your marriage.
Yeah.
And later on in life, tonight's a meme night. Have you also seen the meme of, grandmothers back in 1930? And it's a great little black and white picture of,
No.
this child back in the day. And like, hey, I found a picture of your grandma from 1930. And then 2018, 2019, hey, I found a picture of your grandma and she's all like twerking on something,
Oh, hey.
But that's the type of stuff that we're putting out there.
Yeah.
And a black and white picture from the 1930s was hard to preserve for all these years. Well, now we're in a digital era, and everything that you put online, including a podcast, is going to
be there forever.
Potentially be there forever.
Truly.
So be careful what you put out there.
Yeah, and I think that in marriage especially, feelings follow actions. So I get it. We all get in a bad mood about our spouse and offended and frustrated and annoyed or whatever. And I think in those times, something that I really try to practice, and this even goes into social media, if you are feeling if you're in a bad space mentally in regards to your spouse, start doing things positively for them or about them. So maybe bring them home donuts in the morning, write them a love note, on on social media.
Pizza for lunch.
Maybe in those times you post a picture of you and your honey on a date night, or even writing something that you appreciate about them, or telling your spouse something you appreciate
I
about
think
them.
that's the biggest thing, is just building up the courage to be like, hey, and like genuinely telling someone. All the donuts and notes and all that stuff are really fun things that will always
It's
surprise.
just little acts of love that get your mind
Yeah.
in that mindset to be like, no, I'm going to fight against all this negativity up here, and I'm going to do loving acts, and then my feelings will follow that.
Actions create reactions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so you'll find your heart softening the nicer the more nice and good you do, your heart will soften, and not only to your marriage, to anyone, really.
Well, yeah, it ultimately starts with you. Just like
Yeah.
a marriage ending, it's not just one person's fault 99% of the time. It's usually two
Yeah.
people, or in your case, 6 people. No, I'm just kidding. I make jabs where I can.
Yeah, it's great. Our marriage is really good, guys. I love being
appreciate
jabbed.
you.
Do you guys love being jabbed? We're going to put a poll up. If you like being jabbed in your marriage and poked and made fun of.
Is this going explicit again?
No, I'm just saying if you like to have jabs taken at you in your marriage.
I have to do the editing.
Vote.
I might not put that poll there.
You didn't put the last week's poll there that you did.
It's there now. Go look at it.
Oh. Anyway, what about secrets in marriage? I think in blended families too, there can be. Are you going back to transparency?
No. Holding secrets in any relationship isn't good, but secrets or
withholding information
or
do you think this
forgetting information, because in a blended family, as you all know,
forgetting information.
No.
I forgot to tell you that I was married before.
I'm not talking about stuff like that, and all the viewers know 6 times, 7 times, 8 times. I'm talking about in a blended family.
Yeah.
We have so much going on in so many different places, so many directions.
Mm-hmm.
It could be something so simple like, something about one of your kids having a tournament coming up.
Mm-hmm.
And you think you've talked about this, which I do all the time. I think I'm not keeping a secret. I'm not trying to withhold information, but I just simply forgot or thought I did.
Because you've told everyone else, so you must have told me when I should have been the first one, not the last one.
What if someone's too busy at work?
You can send a little texty text or an email, and I will get it when I can get it. But really, I think that is it. In a blended family, there's a lot of people to your point, you're right. There's a lot of people you have to tell about what's going on in the kids' lives.
Mm-hmm.
It is the other parent, there is the grandparents, there's the kids, there's coordinating with coaches and all that. There's a lot of people talking, but I think the first person you need to always tell, even before the biological parent, tell your spouse.
Yeah.
First. And
That's
then you don't
advice.
ever have to worry about it.
Yep.
You tell them first. And if you get into that habit, base is covered, you don't get any backlash or attitude, or,
and
you fix it.
Yeah. And then you have someone to help you plan out the rest and figure it out from there on out.
It's just a sign of respect, and then just honoring your spouse above everyone else. You're not married to your kid's mom anymore. I'm not married to my kid's dad anymore. So really, we should have that number one spot be each other. I mean, you have to notify the other parent, of course. I'm not saying that. But, even
start at home and work your way out.
Yeah.
Right.
And I think that's really helpful. And that just, communication, our number one issue.
Do you think that's our number one issue?
Do you not?
I thought jabs were. We're going to put another pull up. What's our number one issue?
Oh, every marriage. I don't know.
I feel like we work on it a ton, though. Communication. It's probably one of the hardest things they say one of the biggest deal breakers in a marriage is usually financials. But I truly believe that one of the biggest issues in most marriages is probably communication.
Oh, for sure.
And I see that
Because,
because we have such a great relationship,
hmm
but we constantly have to work on communication.
yeah, but you think financial issues wouldn't be such a problem if there was communication
my
about
point.
the financial issues.
That's my point. So
Yeah.
it
And
all kind of falls hand in hand.
especially, I think co-parentings are, not co-parenting, but our parenting styles. I know I've talked a lot about how we're just different. And I don't think you're right and I'm wrong. I
Right.
don't think I'm right and you're wrong. We're just different. And it's okay to be different. But that definitely affects our marriage. It definitely affects our communication. Sometimes we just know it's going to cause a fight, so you don't say anything. What happens?
Withholding information.
So what happens when you don't want to start a fight and you just don't? This is my game. This is what I do. I don't want to
you're getting
start a
better at it.
fight. Right. So how I roll is I feel a certain way or think a certain way. I know that my opinion's going to cause some sort of reaction that's going to go nowhere, mind you. You're going to be mad, you're going to be upset, you're going to be annoyed, you're going to be offended, whatever.
Will I? Or will I just listen maybe? Or will I try to fix the problem? Because I'm
no,
a problem
no,
solver.
you're going to be offended.
I'm going to be offended?
Yeah, for
Okay.
sure.
What do you have to tell me?
No, I'm just saying this is how I roll, is so I play it all out in my head first. And this is a lot of me assuming, to your point.
I see. Okay, yes.
So I have a thought, opinion, an attitude, whatever about you, our marriage, whatever, the kids, the house, the dogs, I don't know, finances. And I just played out in my head. If I tell him this, what's going to happen? Because I've known you for like 8 years now.
Yeah.
Were you in the 8 years?
Will you tell me what's going to happen in my voice? She has a voice for me.
I do?
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know. Well, I'll have to get to let me do it naturally and
Okay.
organically.
Okay.
You can't force talent.
Okay. Which is why we're still working at this.
So, so I played out in my head, and it never goes well when I play it out in my head. So automatically I'm like, well, it's not like you're gonna hear what I say and be like, oh, you're right.
Sometimes I do.
That's never happened.
It has.
Okay.
That's not the voice she uses for me normally. That's the laughing voice.
That's the laughing voice.
That was a really funny joke the other day anyways.
Anyway, so yeah, I think that the pessimist in me, and I just, I think another thing that comes up in marriages in a blended family is that we go ahead and carry our baggage from our previous marriage into our current one. And I know in my previous marriage, man, if I had to not have another argument my entire life, I'd be good.
Yeah.
I mean, at the end, we couldn't even discuss what's for dinner, kids' homework.
Well, and
how was your day without it ending in a fight?
And you try so hard to avoid conflict now because of that. You have like
but that's not
PTSD
healthy.
from it. It's
I
not.
do. Yes, I have been told that I have actually PTSD from my marriage in that regard. Like I shut down. I don't want to have anything to do with conflict. I'm over it. And so that's how.
At the end of the day, you end up just shutting it down and apologizing, even if it's not your fault or it's not about you.
Yeah. But that's not healthy, because I think that we grow in the trenches, right?
Right.
When we're able to have conflict and work it out, that builds a trust. And I know that. Like, I know that.
Right.
I'm so scared or fearful, or I just don't have faith that it's not going to go that way. I don't have faith in us that it is going to be resolved in a constructive, perfect way that I need it to go.
And it might, that you need it to go.
That's right.
But
I am aware of that.
But it might not always go that way. It might not.
It might not.
But
There's
it can go that way.
There's a 0.01 chance it could.
Yeah, your glasses always have. There's another meme. No, it was a picture she posted on. You posted on Instagram the other day.
What's that?
The line on the cup.
Oh, and my story?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What was it?
It was optimist and pessimist and a line in the water. Yeah. No, you are an optimist. I am a pessimist.
And therefore, we live in two different universes.
Yeah, we do. We have two different realities. That's another struggle in our marriage.
It's a big struggle.
We see things. I live in one reality, and you live in a completely different one.
You live in black and white, and I live in
gray.
No, I live in like unicorn rainbow land where everything's just fluffy and happy and
Oh, I forgot Peter
candy.
Pan. You're Peter Pan.
You're Peter Pants. We won't talk about that on air, though.
Well, now people are going to assume the worst. Okay, so this story...
See, this is why I don't talk about this stuff with my friends, and I talk about it with you.
Yeah, so now everyone can know. So
let's hear the story. This is better than a game tonight. I was going to play a game tonight, but I think the game tonight is Julie's story time.
No, but you say Peter Pants, and people are going to think like I pee the bed or some BS, and I don't.
No, I said pants. I didn't say Peter bed.
Oh, okay.
Does Peter Pan have a bed?
So I got sick. I had a migraine.
Sick.
We were driving. I got a migraine, and with migraines usually comes vomiting. So I told him to pull over, please. I'm going to vomit. So I start vomiting, and I'm heaving so hard. And you moms will totally appreciate this, because once you have kids, your pee hole is never the same
or
again.
Or you old dads, grandpas.
I don't know. Do they pee themselves?
Keep telling the story.
Oh, so I am heaving off the side of the road, and then I'm just peeing my pants.
Hence is the name Peter Pants.
I mean, I was so sick, and I'm like, just, but then,
I can't believe you just told that story. I'm proud of you for that.
Oh, I don't have no shame. You know this about me by now.
I know.
But yeah, that's something that I didn't really realize that motherhood was going to do to me.
That's something
I can't even jump on the trampoline without a little dribble.
But that's not pee. You just have so much fun. I think people should leave in the comments. And speaking of comments, I know some of you guys are listening to this on podcasting stations. So when I say leave a comment, I'm talking about our YouTube. Yeah, and I apologize for that. So if you ever want to leave a comment, come to our YouTube page, find us, and leave a comment.
Or email us.
Mm-hmm. So I apologize when I say leave a comment and you're like, what?
Where?
I can't find comments.
I can't find
You know what I do know, though, is if you're listening to us on iTunes, you can leave comments and ratings on iTunes. And you can actually give us 5 stars, because I think 5 stars is the only thing it allows you to give us. And then you can leave a perfectly wonderful comment, which could be a Peter Pan story. I want to hear everyone's Peter Pan story, kind of.
Every mom who's given birth naturally.
I don't have a good Peter Pan story because I'm a him, but I do have a fun story of throwing up.
Okay.
And it was when I was in high school, and my hockey coach, who was a female, one of the coaches was a female, and I had eaten a whole pizza before a hockey game, and during the game, I threw up my entire pizza all over her feet.
That's disgusting.
So then about a month later,
there's
sitting in
more.
the same bench,
yeah,
the same rink, I saw down under the boards where I had thrown up some M&Ms.
That's disgusting.
So I picked up an M&M and I offered it to her.
Off the floor?
I offered her an M&M, not knowing I was high school. I was like,
you were high school?
Yeah, maybe a little bit around then. And I offered her an M&M, and she ate the M&M. And then I told her the story, and she's hated me since. Not really. It was like a friend's mom. Like, yeah, but it gets brought up every time we see each other. Like, kind of funny, right?
Yeah, I've heard that story like 300 times.
But they haven't. That was my Peter Pan story.
That was a
good
one.
She was so mad she Peter Pants.
She did not.
Oh.
Oh my gosh. Let's talk about something that my friend had brought up when she was telling me that we could not air the podcast we recorded about her being a transgender stepmother.
Okay. She's not transgender. The relationship she is in.
Yeah.
Keep going. That's fine.
She had mentioned...
Oh, just kidding. It's not fine. It's going to be on our podcast. Keep going.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, probably.
Oh, so while you're doing that, I'll just go ahead and talk about this. Is that something that she had mentioned was your children or your stepchildren's issues. Not that being transgender is an issue. Oh my gosh. Hi, you guys. We're
Sorry.
back. Don't mind all that mess. But so she was saying that we should actually talk about, you know, children having issues and how those children having issues affects your marriage.
Yeah. There's so many, and I'm sure everyone can relate to this because there is so many different types of issues that we couldn't even fathom that people are dealing with. And some of those touch such a deep nerve in so many people on both sides that ultimately our kids can come between us if we don't have a strong enough marriage.
Absolutely. And some issues, to be fair, when she married, this was not even a thought in anyone's mind that they would be going through a transgender situation, right? So,
Yeah, because this happened 7 years into the marriage.
I believe
Quite a ways in.
Yeah, and so I think that with blended families too, just because you marry and all these kids are a certain way, you know, doesn't mean that down the road you're not going to encounter, your kids aren't going to get issues. I mean, what if your kids start stealing or doing drugs, or you find out they have a disability, or they want to become a different sex, or they get someone pregnant?
Yeah, a lot of it might not be when they're children.
Yeah, things happen. So your marriage has to be super strong enough. Like, you have to have a good enough foundation, because I feel like every marriage has to weather some kind of uncontrollable storm, whether it's via your kids or something else.
You'll always be tested, sometimes harder than others.
Yeah.
And if you can't make it through the simple things in life, it's going to be so much more difficult to get through the harder things in life.
Yeah. But I think that when your children are having issues, what becomes such a problem in a blended family marriage is that when you're not in a blended family and you're married and you have kids and your kids have issues, you both have equal rank in your opinion. I feel like you have a right to your opinion, I have an equal right to my opinion. All the things, you're equal ground.
Right.
In a blended family and you're in a step parenting situation, you're not equal ground. And I know there's step parenting movements that just are trying to obliterate that.
Yeah.
There's step parenting movements that are like, no, we're equal to the biological parent. Like, this is a huge thing. And I guess in some families that might roll, that might fly.
In
That's
some
awesome
families
if
that
that's
might be
you.
the true way it is.
Most blended families, the step parent, I'm going to use the term lesser because we we don't have, especially if the other parents are present, so then a child has an issue and you're in a step parenting family, you kind of have to let the biological parent lead.
Right.
I feel. And you kind of have to be a support to that. Now, what happens if what the biological parent is leading is something that you completely disagree with? What do you think? What would you do? Like, if
I feel like we could start another movement, support people, and be like bras or something.
Support people?
Yeah.
Oh.
Like flashlight people.
But
support people.
You just want bras.
And then we'll just be bras.
Anyway. Yeah, but like that's a really hard place in a marriage and I think the biological parent knows they hold all the power. It's kind of like, it's nice that you have this opinion, step parent.
Yeah, they totally
but
do.
I'm going to do what I'm going to do.
Step parents typically don't have any rights legally. That's something that you have to go through adoption
or court order, to be a guardian. There are ways to get rights. It's just
typically though they don't have the rights.
Yeah.
I mean, which is why, to your point, step parents are kind of lesser. And it doesn't mean your role is lesser. Doesn't mean that you have less responsibility for that stepchild in your home, away from your home, responsibilities whatsoever. It just means at the end of the day, your true place in life is just, you really are lesser.
It's a ranking
know?
system. You are a lower rank
Doesn't have to be much less.
individual
Right.
as a step parent, especially if the biological parent, both biological parents are present and counted for. You know, and I think that's just something that step parents need to accept and stop fighting. You know, one thing that I've been talking to a lot of people about online is, and we don't have this situation because we don't have kids and we're not having kids together,
I have kids.
but you and I together don't have any.
Oh.
We won't.
We can try.
Ever. We'll try later, baby. We'll practice. But
This podcast is ending now, ladies and gentlemen. Thanks for listening. No, I'm just kidding.
But something that's been brought up online often is parents who have their own kids and then have kids together. Okay? There's been a lot of talk of how, and it's so bio dads or the dad treats their biological kids with their ex different than they treat their biological children with their new spouse.
Okay.
A lot of people see a difference in how, and I think
can see that going both ways.
I'm sure moms do too.
And I could also see that from, I'm not a stepchild. I've never been a stepchild, but I could also see that from the kid's point of view too, where, oh, now I'm not the stepchild, but I'm only half the child in this household.
Yeah.
I could see where that could.
But I think that causes problems in marriage. I mean, I couldn't imagine if we had children and you started treating our child, I don't know, different than.
You guys don't have that, but at my kid's other house,
yeah,
that's the situation they're in. Their mother and their stepfather over there have a child together.
Do you feel like that child gets treated differently? You don't know. We don't. I don't feel like we know.
No, I don't know that for sure, but I could see that.
Yeah, I think that would be a huge struggle in a blended family marriage.
Right. Well, now that child's there all the time too. That child's not jumping back and forth. So, say you're in a state like California and it's super expensive to live, and, or Massachusetts, and you can only afford a 2-bedroom house, but you have 3 kids, or a 4-bedroom house, or a 3-bedroom house and you have 3 kids. Now what kid gets a full-time room? You hear about these situations and these problems happening, and which,
Yeah, and I think both parents or both spouses in a blended family, that causes a lot of issues. You're fighting for your own children a lot. Like I feel like blended family parents are having to stick up for their own kids. And so instead of coming together and it's our kids, I think a lot of people are like, well, my kid needs this room, and no, my kid needs this room. And when you start having teams in a blended family, you and your kids, me and my kids,
puts a big division between you two.
Yeah, and it puts like your football, like your
hockey.
Okay, you're in a face-off.
Thank you.
You don't want your marriage to be one giant face-off in a blended family.
I like your analogy. Yeah.
I know what I'm talking about.
Do you?
But you don't, and I think that in a blended family, a lot of times you find marriages and face-offs because of the kids. If you didn't have the kids, I think there'd be a lot less of that. And so what do you say for people that are in face-offs in a blended family marriage? What do you think that they should do?
Just go off sides and get on the same side as your spouse. And it doesn't have to be a game. It doesn't have to be a fight or a war. It really just needs to be a discussion.
Yeah.
There's usually a solution to every problem, and maybe you don't know the solution to it, and it might be bugging you. You might have this bedroom issue, and it's bugging you because you're not sure how to solve it, but your spouse might know how. So rather than taking the defensive side of it, maybe just try to get on the same page and be like, listen, this is a concern that I'm having, and I'm not sure how this is going to work out. And maybe they're assuming it's going to work out a certain way.
Mm-hmm.
But it's never going to work out unless you have that discussion. It's never going to go good without that discussion.
Yeah.
right? It can't go good without
Right.
having the discussion. And it could go bad, but it can't go good without the discussion.
Yeah. And when you enter into a blended family, you are entering in his and hers. And you're making them ours. And I know something that's been a struggle for me and not so much you. I think you're better at it than me, but I always say your kids, my kids. Your kids, my kids. And I think that what we've been told is that we need to start using the language our kids.
I tried to, and I got shocked. Remember? It was an awesome. Well, it would have been an awesome game if I didn't get shocked.
So, but I think that's natural to come in. I mean, you're coming into a blended family, and you are his and hers. That's just reality. It's nothing to be offended by.
It is at the time, yeah.
But you have to retrain your brain.
And you've struggled with this
Totally.
to this day.
Totally.
Can you explain that? I'm curious what your struggle is. On
I
this.
just am like, it's reality. I don't think it's offensive. I'm not offended that you say that those are your kids.
Right.
I'm not like, oh my God, they need to be our kids.
Oh, you're British now.
Like I'm not offended. Like, you don't think they're your kids too? Why don't you think they're your kids too?
British white girl.
Yeah. I don't get like that.
Does it offend you to have... Does it offend you to call them our kids? Like, do you feel like I'm stepping out of line or...
It doesn't offend me. They're just not our kids.
But they are.
We didn't make these kids.
I'm not saying we did.
But that's how I relate it.
But look at this. When I'm talking to my buddy and I'm not complaining about you, and I'm talking...
One of the few times. There's so much to complain about.
I can't even get this sentence out. I can't even give this analogy without calling them our kids. Hey, we're going to go camping this weekend. And they say, oh, who's going? I say, me, Julie, and our kids.
And I would be like, me, Eric, and the kids.
Okay.
That's just naturally.
What kids? Our kids.
Right. No. And doesn't offend me. And yes, I'm sure I do use the term our kids.
Right.
But how my brain thinks is like, my brain thinks biologically. So I'm just like, we did not make these children. So they're not our. But I get the point. Like, it's all like flowers and roses and kumbaya and let's hold hands.
That's what it needs to be.
But I think that's how I take it. Not that I'm right. I don't feel like I'm right.
You're an extremism.
I'm very black and white.
Extremist. That's the word.
It's not extreme. It's just reality.
Yeah, I mean, yes, to a point it is.
No, it is. They are not, like, we did not make.
But the kids as a whole are our kids.
It's our family.
Why? You're not biologically my wife. That'd make you my sister.
Okay, whatever. This is like not gonna go anywhere. See,
this is a debate.
This is why we don't have. We're facing.
Now
off
she's gonna give up and apologize to me. Come on.
I'm not sorry. I'm just telling you my point. You asked me why I struggle with it. You asked me the question.
I know.
So if you didn't want an answer, you shouldn't have asked it.
I love your answer.
That's just my struggle, and I don't think it's wrong to call them our kids. I also don't think it's wrong to call them your kids. I don't think it's a big deal. So because I'm trained that way, it doesn't make calling them our kids isn't going to make me feel any different about your children or my children. Just because I say the term ours isn't going to create this heart, this love.
Could it though?
Not when day to day is what not when you're living life and you're experiencing things that, I don't think that our kids overshadows the experience of being a stepmom or a biological mom day to day and the interactions and the things that happen.
When you meet someone for the first time and you talk to them, do you immediately lead with, I'm Julie, I'm married, but we're a blended family? Or do you say, I'm Julie and we're married, this is my spouse?
I don't know.
Do you let people know?
I'm not consciously saying anything.
Do you let people know, hey,
I've
I've been married before? Or do you introduce, this is my husband?
I think that's also very situational.
Okay, because my next question is...
Like, I'm like, this is my husband, Eric.
And they say, oh...
Do I lead with, I've been married twice before?
Do you guys have kids? Do you need to make it a point like, yes, I have 2 kids. But she has 2 kids.
But you do that too. Yes.
Sometimes
but
you
you
can.
always are like, when we
But I
talk
like
about
to
our
tout our
kids.
blended family. Like I think it's a fun fact.
Yeah.
But if I'm talking to someone, and most of my friends know this, I always refer to the kids as, but I'm different than you. I refer to them as our kids. I call myself a father of 4,
Aw.
and that's not like I'm not trying to like get petted or later. Anyways,
Don't tell my ex-husband that.
yeah, no, but
I'm just kidding. He wouldn't. That was a stupid jab.
we're gonna start a new TV show called Jabs with Julie.
Oh. So Chris is chiming in,
Hi,
which
Chris.
I knew I was going to get flack. I always get flack for my opinion on,
Yes, I want to
especially
hear
on
it.
this.
I can't read it from here.
He says, but through your wedding ceremony, aren't they yours now?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I
Thank you,
mean, I
Chris.
don't absolve myself of responsibility or
I know.
taking. I care for my stepchildren.
I know.
I provide for my stepchildren.
You care a ton for your yes.
I do what, it doesn't absolve me.
And you've always made a big effort. And
I try
again,
to keep things fair and
yes,
equal.
I'm not. That's what my point was. I'm not trying to pet you here, but like you totally try to make an effort to make everything fair and equal. But I think that has to be that becomes a conscious effort. You're very aware. Like I'm trying to make this equal because I don't want it to seem unequal.
I don't want anyone's feelings to get hurt.
Right.
I don't want any sad children in our house. I don't want any children in our house to feel like some are the stars and the others are the bastards. I don't want that for our kids.
Do you ever feel like the kids recognize that though and go, well, she's not, she does this for her kids. I'm giving you one there. She's doing this for her kids because it's natural and that's what she wants to do. But now she's trying to make up for it and make it equal. So she's doing it for me as well.
That's not my heart. So if somebody thinks that, then that's on them. Even our kids.
Okay. And
I don't worry about that. I know my heart. With anyone, like if they can think what they want, but that's not my intentions or my heart. But I think that has to be equal. Like I feel like I have done for all the kids what I would do for my own kids. I have done for your kids. I don't,
you do. No, you're an excellent stepmom, and I'm not trying.
I don't think I'm an excellent stepmom.
You don't think you're an excellent stepmom?
No.
I think you're great. I think you put effort into being a stepmother just as much as you do being in a real mother. Is there room for improvement? There's always going to be room for improvement.
Just ask my son.
But that's but you're his mother, biological.
Well, there's always room for improvement being a mom.
Yeah, he calls himself an orphan, so we don't talk about that.
Oh dear Lord!
No, I'm just kidding. Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't think that I just think people get caught up in terms, and people are. I mean, you can't walk around in America and not offend somebody. So
especially this day and age,
dude. So I get it. Like my point of view is very different. But anyway,
and the only reason I'm asking you a ton about this is because a lot of people probably feel.
Well, I think it goes back to like, while they're our kids, are they really our kids? Because I can't take my stepson to a doctor's appointment and seek medical treatment for him. I can't go take him to school and sign him up for classes. I can't go sign him up for any sports activities. So I'm kind of like also that reality of
your stepson?
Yeah.
Okay.
Like, so are they really our kids if I can't do the basic parent thing?
But if this is something that got brought to our attention not that long ago, is if something happened to, say, my kid's biological mother, all of a sudden, now you're not biological.
No, but do I get rights because your ex dies? I mean, you'd have to go through the courts.
Right, but you could.
Right.
So at that point, does that change things for you?
It would definitely shift the power in the household.
Okay, but do you refer to them as our kids?
I don't know. Like, would I make him call me mom now?
No, I don't think so.
I mean, same thing.
Okay.
Our kids versus he calls me Julie versus mom.
Have we ever
supposed to be talking about marriage?
This is marriage. We're having a marriage discussion right now.
Getting hot.
Are you? Are you gonna Peter Pants?
Maybe.
Okay. But these are things that.
Yeah, I think that you can't be offended about me saying our kids,
right,
without being equally offended that my stepson doesn't call me mom.
No, you have a point.
I mean, what? So am I?
But he calls you stepmom.
Okay. And I call him,
See, but this is
I
weird
don't
too,
know.
though, because he also, I've heard him refer to your children as his brother and as his sister.
Yeah, I think that's a little bit different. I think kids are more loose with other kids.
Are they?
Yeah, they call kids on the playground brother and
We've
sister.
never really touched on this.
I have a friend I call my sister.
Yeah, you
It's
also call your
different.
girlfriend's girlfriends.
I don't go
and then I
around
question
calling other
you.
people my husband.
Yeah, that'd be pretty weird. No, I've heard you before refer to someone as your work husband years and years ago
Oh,
before we were
that's
married.
funny. Everyone, okay, if you work in an office space or in a company, I'm sure you have a work spouse. You could be a lesbian and have a work wife and be a
I
woman.
have been a lesbian all my life, thank you. So,
Anyway,
something I don't think we've ever talked about, though,
yes.
and we actually talked about it in our transgender podcast,
Okay.
but you just touched on, is forcing a kid to call you mom or call you dad. What's your thoughts on that?
I was forced to call my stepmom mom. Have I told this story?
I don't know. Give us a quick version in case you have.
Yeah, so I am a stepchild. Okay, my whole life my parents divorced when I was a year and a half old. So I never knew my parents together, a little background. And so growing up, I think I did tell this story because you had asked me why I call my stepdad dad then, if
That's
I was
right.
forced to. So long, not to repeat myself, but yeah, I was forced to call my stepmom mom, and that always bugged me.
Yeah.
Children aren't dumb. I'd be sitting there like, and maybe that's why the our children thing bugs me. It doesn't bug
I
me.
think
It
that's
just
why you
doesn't
have-
like. It's not natural for me to say that.
I think
But
that's why you have more of a place for it than I do, because I was, my parents are still together, which I've mentioned 10,000 times,
yeah,
but it doesn't bother me. I'm like,
yeah, it bugged me.
they're our
Like kids are
kids.
smart, so you force a child, and maybe some kids would really want that. But I wasn't raised with my dad being in my life daily, so I would see my dad on holidays and summers.
Yeah.
They lived 6 hours away from me.
Well, I live
So-
6 planets away from you on Unicorn and Rainbow Planet. And
Yeah.
I think when I
I live in Pleasantville.
yeah, when I call them our kids, I think it's just a lot more lightly. I'm not trying to step in and be
No,
your
you
kid's
never have.
dad but I think I just put it a lot more
But
lightly.
see, isn't that offensive?
It could be. I could
Like
see it
you're
being
a stepdad and you're not trying to come in and be a dad to, like some people would take that and run with it and make it an offensive thing.
But I also step up and play the dad role where it's needed. I don't step up and say, "Hey, I am your dad."
Yeah.
You have to be dynamic. You have to be very dynamic with
Yeah.
the children at all times.
Yeah. And I think that's why our marriage has been, we don't have a perfect marriage. We struggle, but one thing that I love about you as your wife in this blended family is that you do give me space and my kids space to just be who we are. You don't try to overstep and you don't step in and discipline the kids. And I don't think you would feel comfortable stepping in front of me and disciplining the kids. I think that would be a very uncomfortable situation. And I mean, I appreciate that you respect my role as a mom to my
Absolutely.
kids. I
Yeah.
very much respect your role as a dad to your kids. And I'm not about to be like, unless it, I don't really even give my opinion because I just don't feel like it matters. Truly. You're going to do what you're going to do.
And
You're going to, at the end of
apologize for it.
but at the end of the day, I think biological parents, I don't care if you have a step parent in the picture or not. 9 times out of 10, and maybe there's a couple pushovers out there, I don't know. But biological parents in a blended family are going to do what they're going to do. They might consider a different opinion from your spouse but so what does that do to a marriage, right?
It breaks it down.
It puts you in your place.
Yeah.
I don't even think it breaks it down. I think that in a
You
blended
don't think
family,
that's taking a brick out of the wall every time? You're like, man,
no,
it doesn't matter. And again, we're talking on last week's subject. It doesn't matter what I say. They're going to do what they're going to do.
Yep.
And it's going to break you down, or look at it the other way, or you put a brick in the wall and it's going to start building up that wall because it doesn't matter what you say anyways.
Yeah.
They're just going to do whatever they do. And now all of a sudden you're starting to shut yourself down.
I don't see it like that. I see it that everyone has a role to play in a family. Everyone has their place in a family. and why it all may be equal in value, it isn't all equal in everything. And I think that's okay. I think that's how it's supposed to be. I mean, in the beginning of time, men went and hunted, women, men were the hunter gatherers, and women we had different roles. Both are necessary for the survival of a family. So I don't think that it needs to. I think people just get so wrapped up and offended by everything that we just can't even see straight, and we get all the jargon of that. It interrupts things. So to my point, I just think that it's a respect thing. Like, you respect my role, I respect your role. We accept the things that we can't change, and let's not continuously fight with our spouse about, like, why are we going to beat a dead horse and have the same fight again, and it's going to go nowhere. That breaks down a marriage.
Yeah.
I think.
Get on the same page and start communicating.
Or agree to disagree and be like, okay with that.
But the bottom line is, have the conversations. Don't close off. Don't assume.
Yeah.
Don't, build up a story in your own mind and, just assume that your spouse is going to shut it down.
And don't ever threaten. I know you're trying to close us out.
I'm closing us out.
But don't open doors you're not prepared to walk through. I think in blended families, we all feel like, not we all, but people feel like they want to give up a lot. It's really hard. Marriage is really hard.
Yeah.
So don't open that door. Don't threaten divorce. People are really sensitive about that anyway in a blended family. You've already been divorced.
And I think divorce is such a topic these days that is so lightly brushed upon, where, 50, 100 years ago, divorce was such a far off, distant place that no one would ever go.
Right.
So keep your marriage a lot more sacred than that. And if you guys have any thoughts or feelings on this, let's give everyone a call to action tonight. Rather than commenting below, which you can do, you always can do, check us out on our Facebook page at
Ogden, please.
The Blended Life Official. No, what is our Facebook? / just do a search for The Blended Life on Facebook.
Blended Life, yeah.
And let us know how this is playing out in your marriage, how you guys work through it in your marriage, and maybe some of the struggles. And if you have other topics, let us know. But we really just want to thank you guys for being here, for tuning in, for listening to us, for watching us, and just thanks for helping make the blended family community so much stronger with us.
Yeah, I'd love to know your guys' struggles in your marriage. I don't want to feel alone in our struggles. And then also tell us your accomplishments. Give us advice what works for you.
I like it.
Yeah, I want to hear what works. We know it doesn't.
Yeah.
All right, you guys. Thank you for joining us tonight. Don't forget to like us on all the ways in social media. Subscribe to our podcast, our YouTube channel. Did you already say all this?
Yep. And view us usually live Thursday. And if we're not live, we are here to chat with you.
Absolutely.
And we premiere with you guys. So thanks, you guys, again for tuning in. We'll talk to you. We'll see you next week.
Longest goodbye ever.
Goodbye.
Bye.